This is from David in Mexico. I think I started falling apart long before anyone noticed. On the surface, I looked fine, but inside, I was tired, ashamed, and constantly worried about how much I had failed in my own life, even when nobody else could see it. Back then, people thought I was doing okay. I had a job, and I told my family and friends I was just busy. But I was hiding something much bigger. Debt was building up quickly, and I didn't know how to face it or admit how bad things had become. I spent many nights staring at bills I couldn't pay. Every envelope I opened made me feel smaller and more trapped. I tried to figure out solutions, but nothing worked. The pressure was heavy, and I began to believe there wasn't a real way back from the mess I had created. That's when a thought appeared, not about working harder, but about disappearing. What if I left everything behind? What if I simply vanished and let people believe I was gone forever? It wasn't a proud thought, but it felt like the only escape I had left to consider. After weeks of carrying that idea, I made the decision. One night I packed a small bag, left my phone and ID, and walked away into the dark. I didn't tell anyone. I left behind only silence, letting people assume the worst while I crossed into the unknown alone. Arriving in Mexico didn't feel the way I expected. I thought I would feel free, but instead I felt numb and unsettled. I had traded one kind of fear for another. I was alive, but I had buried my old self under a lie I now had to keep. I chose a new name. I practiced it until it sounded natural, but it never felt real. Each time I introduced myself, I was reminded of the person I had abandoned. Reinvention sounded exciting in theory, but in reality, it felt like pretending to be someone I could never truly be. At first, I tried to convince myself this was a fresh start. No debts, no expectations, no one who knew me. But the truth showed up quickly. Eating alone, walking alone, living alone. It hit me that I hadn't escaped my problems. I had only created heavier new ones. Nights were the hardest. I couldn't sleep without worrying. Sometimes I dreamed about people calling me by my real name. I would wake up shaking, wondering if someone would recognize me one day. Instead of relief, I carried a constant weight of fear, guilt, and the risk of being found. I told myself I was free, but freedom didn't look like this. I avoided questions, changed stories, and never let anyone close enough to notice the truth. Every interaction was built on lies. The life I thought would save me was turning into another prison, only this time, I had built it myself. I thought distance would erase my problems, but it didn't. Walking through crowded streets, I felt exposed, like people could see right through me. My new name couldn't hide the tension in my body. Even ordering food or answering small questions felt risky, as if I might accidentally reveal the person I really was. The loneliness became impossible to ignore. By cutting ties with everyone who once knew me, I also removed the only people who cared enough to notice when I struggled. No old friends, no family, no familiar voices checking in. I told myself it was safer this way, but it felt like punishment more than freedom. I avoided forming new connections. Anytime someone seemed interested in getting closer, I pulled away. I couldn't risk slipping up and saying too much. My walls got higher, and I ended up locking myself inside. The safety I thought I wanted turned into constant isolation, with guilt and fear as my only company. Money still followed me like a shadow. I picked up small jobs here and there, but they were unstable. Each paycheck reminded me that I hadn't solved anything. I had only moved my problems to a different place. My debt was still unpaid, my shame still heavy, and my fear still growing every day. Fun fact, people choose to disappear for many reasons: overwhelming debt, abusive situations, mental health struggles, or feeling trapped by shame and expectations. It's rarely about adventure. Most are searching for relief or safety, not excitement. But the isolation they find often turns out to be even harder than what they left. Studies show that most people who try to disappear don't stay hidden for long. Fear, loneliness, or small mistakes usually catch up with them. Running away almost always creates new problems without ever truly solving the old ones that pushed them to leave in the first place. After those first months, cracks began to show. I slipped up on small details, forgetting the story I had told someone, or mixing up names and dates. Each mistake sent a rush of panic through me. I lived with constant tension, waiting for the moment someone would piece together the truth. I sometimes caught myself in the mirror and didn't recognize the person staring back. This version of me had no history, no real identity, and no future to look forward to. Reinventing yourself sounds powerful when you imagine it, but when it's built on lies, it doesn't feel like freedom. It feels hollow. The guilt grew heavier with time. I thought about the people I left behind, family who worried, friends who wondered, debts unpaid. I had assumed that distance would help me forget their faces, but instead they followed me everywhere. I carried those memories into every room, every meal, and every single night. Fear never left my side. I avoided cameras, large crowds, and situations where anyone might ask too many questions. My life shrank into smaller spaces, fewer risks, and fewer chances to connect with anyone. The more I tried to stay hidden, the more obvious my isolation became to me. Eventually the truth hit me. I hadn't escaped anything. Living as a ghost wasn't living at all. I thought disappearing would save me, but it only buried me deeper. I was still drowning. Only now I had no one left to reach for. The escape I wanted had turned into a cage. The longer I stayed hidden, the more exhausting it became. Every day felt like acting in a role I never wanted. I smiled when I had to, but inside I was constantly on edge. My life was built on lies, and I knew that sooner or later, everything would collapse. I avoided making plans for the future. How could I? Every choice I made had to be small, temporary, and safe. I couldn't commit to anything because it meant risking someone digging deeper into who I really was. My world shrank down to survival, nothing more. Sometimes I thought about turning myself in, just ending the charade, but then fear would grab hold again. What would people think of me? Would anyone forgive me? Would I even forgive myself? I pushed those thoughts away, but they always came back stronger the next time. The truth eventually caught up. I made a mistake, too small to notice at first, but enough for someone to start asking questions. I tried to cover it up, but it was too late. The identity I had built was fragile, and finally, the pieces began to break apart. When the authorities closed in, I felt two things at once, dread and relief. Dread for the consequences I would face, but relief that the pretending was finally over. For the first time in years, I didn't have to keep lying about who I was. Facing people again was harder than I imagined. My family's disappointment, the shame of explaining what I had done, the weight of debts that still followed me, it all came crashing down. I had left thinking I could erase those problems, but instead I had made them far worse. I realized disappearing didn't erase the pain I carried, it multiplied it. I lost trust, I lost time, and I lost parts of myself I will never get back. Starting over under a false name wasn't a new beginning, it was a slow unraveling that left me emptier than before. Looking back now, I understand what I was really running from. It wasn't the money. It wasn't even other people's judgment. I was running from myself, from the version of me that felt weak, ashamed, and afraid to ask for help. And no matter how far I ran, he followed me. Even now, I'm not sure what redemption looks like. I live with the consequences of what I did, and I know some people may never forgive me. But I've learned one thing. You can't erase who you are by pretending to be someone else. The truth always finds its way back. If you were in my place, what would you have done? Would you forgive someone who disappeared on you, or would you carry that hurt forever? I'd like to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment, and if this story spoke to you, please like the video and subscribe for more.